Is Virgil van Dijk one of the greatest defenders to ever play in the Premier League? Today, the Dutchman is considered one of the finest defenders in Premier League history. Of course, there are a lot of arguments here. I mean, if you think about it, the English top division has been blessed with some really amazing defenders, such as Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, John Terry, Vincent Kompany, Jaap Staam, Campbell, and so many others. This is the reason why people tend to undercut everything the Liverpool defender has achieved in a short span of time. However, those comparisons never really do justice with a player whose arrival played a big role in making the Reds one of the most dominating sides in England and beyond. So today, we're going to talk about how life was for Virgil van Dijk growing up and what steps he took to become one of the most celebrated centre-backs in the modern Premier League era. Before we get started, we want to share the sponsor of today's video. The OneFootball app is the ultimate football platform and is a must-have for every football fan so that you can follow all of your favourite leagues, teams and players all the time right from your phone. You can be sure to turn on notifications for specific players to be instantly alerted when they score a goal or when they are involved in other breaking news. It is the best and easiest way to stay up to date with everything football. Click the link in the description down below to download the app right now. You won't regret it. Born on July 8, 1991 in Breda, Netherlands, to a Dutch father and a Surinamese mother, Van Dijk was always touted for big things. Initially though, things were not as easy as they seem to be now. Van Dijk struggled to impose himself on the field, and coaches considered him very slow and small. Then there was an issue related to the abdominal abscess, which resulted in the player spending some time in a hospital. In fact, the defender still has scars from the procedure on his lower abdomen. Fortunately, Virgil did manage to recover from the issue. No one thought that the youngster would ever become a physically fit human being, let alone a football player of great talent. But then again, miracles are around us, and Van Dijk managed to make the best of whatever he had. NEC Breda, his hometown side, never gave him a proper look in, but that never mattered to him because very soon Groningen came calling. At such a young age, it was difficult for the youngster to make a 255-kilometer journey, but then again, he was willing to take the risk, and every fibre of his being told him to take a leap of faith. Before arriving at Groningen, Van Dijk was actually representing Willem II's academy and reserve sides. However, the coaches over there failed to manage his fitness, and he arrived at his new club fatigued. Naturally, he was going to struggle to break into the first team. However, the coaching staff remained persistent, seeing something most of his coaches hadn't. In May 2011, he made his debut in a 4-2 win over ADO Den Haag. A few weeks later, he made his first start and also managed to score a brace in a Europa League playoff match. In his first season in the Eredivisie, Van Dijk had managed 23 league appearances. However, things could have gone horribly wrong for the Dutchman, who suffered a serious medical scare soon after he turned 20. The young centre-back was rushed to a hospital with peritonitis and kidney poisoning. In fact, his condition was so severe that he came very close to dying. In fact, the hospital staff had even asked him to sign a sort of will in the event of his passing. But then again, Van Dijk had always been a superhuman, and his next comeback was just around the corner. The following season, it had become clear that Van Dijk was too good to stay at a club where he was never going to win the big trophies. Unsurprisingly, Groningen offered him to the big teams in the Netherlands, including Ajax, who shockingly decided not to sign him. That was a big mistake, and something of a rarity, because the Amsterdammers are not the sort of side who pass on the chance to sign a talented local player. Ajax's loss was Celtic's gain, who signed him up in June 2013 for a miserly £2.6 million. That was a real steal, and no one talks about it enough. I mean, the crappiest defenders out there costed more back in those days, so the Hoops must have been rubbing their hands in glee when they signed a player of such high potential, join them for peanuts. The Scottish Premiership was going to be the perfect finishing school for Van Dijk. This was a league where the physical side of football is magnified, and Van Dijk, with his towering presence and willingness to use his strength when needed, was always going to be a huge success. In his first season with the Hoops, the Dutchman helped them win the league, while creating a lot of memorable moments, such as a solo run against St Johnstone where he managed to find the back of the net. For his performances, he was named in the PFA Scotland Team of the Year, and he was also nominated the PFA Scotland Players Player of the Year. The next season started with a similar air of dominance, with Celtic defending their league crown. The only blemish was getting knocked out of the Champions League qualifying round at the hands of Malmö. By the end of the season, it was clear that Van Dijk was due to move to a bigger league. Southampton had been keeping an eye on the Dutchman for a few months, and in the last few minutes of the 2015 summer transfer window, they signed him up for just £13 million. Yet another team signed Van Dijk for a steal. The Saints knew that they were signing a really good player who would end up having a very promising 2015-16 campaign for his side. A year later, he signed a 6-year deal, and at the start of 2017, he was also given the captain's armband following Jose Font's departure to Lille. Southampton were flying high at the time, and they also reached the final of the EFL Cup, where they lost to Manchester United. Unfortunately, Van Dijk suffered an ankle injury in a game against Leicester City, which saw him miss out on the spectacle at Wembley Stadium. Following the 2016-17 campaign, Van Dijk was hotly linked with Liverpool. In fact, the Reds were forced to apologise to Southampton for an illegal approach, but Jurgen Klopp was relentless in his pursuit and finally bagged his signing on December 27, 2017 for a then record fee of £75 million. Since then, Van Dijk has not looked back, and we don't even need to go into the details about how good he's been for the Merseyside Giants. Liverpool are now one of the most difficult teams to score against, and part of the reason is the Dutchman's presence. Whichever competition Liverpool play in, you can always expect them to have a lot of solidity at the back because of their talismanic leader. There have been times when he has been a player even the best players cannot dribble past. His agility and willingness to play dirty when needed are just a few reasons why he's such a huge asset to the Reds. After helping Klopp to the Champions League title and the Premier League, it is safe to say that Virgil van Dijk is one of the best defenders we have seen in the Premier League. A modern-day great who's also a true leader of men, Van Dijk's story is all about persistence and never giving up. As a young player, he had serious medical conditions to deal with. In such scenarios, most people think about surviving, but for Van Dijk, it was all about defying all odds and then thriving on the football pitch. And boy, has he done that in style.